All right, let's jump right in. You know, every solid strategy starts with that one moment of pure clarity. But here's the thing, that clarity doesn't just appear. You have to forge it from chaos, from a storm of raw data, tons of customer feedback, or a wall covered in 100 sticky notes after a brainstorm. So today, we're going to unpack the framework that top consultants and teams use to turn that exact chaos into a clear, actionable strategy. We're talking about the affinity diagram. So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll talk about the challenge itself, that feeling of being overwhelmed. Then we'll introduce the tool, the affinity diagram, and get into the why, the real strategic benefits. After that, it's all about the how, with a simple 4-step guide. We'll even look at a real-world case study to see it in action, and then we'll wrap up with how you can put this to work for you. Okay, let's set the scene, because I'm sure you've been here. You've just wrapped up a huge brainstorm or a big customer survey. The energy was great, ideas were flying everywhere, but now you're just staring at a mountain of data points, completely stuck in what we call analysis paralysis. You've got all this rich information, but absolutely no clear idea what to do next. It's the classic signal versus noise problem, and honestly, it's where so many great ideas just go to die. And this, right here, is the million-dollar question. Your team came up with 100 fantastic ideas. So, what happens now? The risk here is huge, right? You can try to do everything at once and end up doing nothing well. Or even worse, the sheer volume of it all is so overwhelming that all that great momentum just evaporates. The brilliant insights get lost, the team feels deflated. This what now moment is truly where a breakthrough strategy is either born or it gets crushed under its own weight. This is exactly where the solution comes in. To fight back against all that unstructured complexity, you need a proven framework. And that is the affinity diagram. You can think of this as a consultant's secret weapon. It's a tool for structuring thought, for finding those hidden connections, and for building a strategy from the ground up, especially when you're dealing with a totally new or unfamiliar problem. So, what is it officially? Well, an affinity diagram, sometimes called the KJ method, named after its inventor, Jiro Kawakita, is a technique designed to organize a massive number of ideas into their natural relationships. The key word there is natural. This isn't about forcing your ideas into pre-made boxes you thought of beforehand. No, it's about letting the ideas themselves show you what the real, meaningful categories are. And that is so important when you're in new territory and you don't even know what the main themes are yet. Now, you might be looking at this and thinking, this sounds kind of like a cause and effect diagram, a fishbone diagram. And you're not wrong. They're in the same family. But here's the critical difference. A fishbone diagram starts with a known problem, like low customer satisfaction, and then you brainstorm causes. An affinity diagram is what you use when you don't even know what the big themes or problems are yet. Its real power is in handling that ambiguity and letting the structure emerge all on its own. Okay, so we know what it is, but let's get to the real heart of it. The why. Why should you and your team actually spend time doing this? Because this is about way more than just making a pretty chart. This is about unlocking some serious strategic value that can totally change how your team works and makes big decisions. Let's just quickly run through these benefits, because they're huge. First, it takes that fire hose of 100 ideas and boils it down to maybe 5 or 7 core strategic themes. So much more manageable. Second, it builds team consensus organically. Everyone builds it together, so the buy-in is natural, not forced. Third, it's like a discovery engine. It helps you see connections between ideas you never would have noticed before. And maybe best of all, you don't need to be an expert to use it. It's incredibly accessible. It's a tool that gives you clarity and team buy-in at the same time, which, let's be honest, is kind of the holy grail. All right, time to get our hands dirty. We've talked about the what and the why, so now let's get into the how. We're going to walk through a super simple, really elegant 4-step framework that you could literally use tomorrow to build your own affinity diagram and start making sense of all that complexity we talked about. Here's the whole process in a nutshell. It flows from wide to narrow. First, you gather all the raw ideas. Then, you organize them by silently sorting them into groups. After that, you give those groups names, you label them. And finally, and this is the most important part, you use those groups to create a real action plan. So let's double-click on each one of these steps. Step 1 is all about getting everything out on the table. We call it the brain dump. The only goal here is to get every single idea, thought, or concern out of people's heads and onto a sticky note, whether it's physical or digital. Right now, it's all about quantity over quality. We're just mining for the raw, unfiltered material that's going to fuel this whole process. Now, these rules are not suggestions. They are absolutely critical for this to work. It has to be done quietly and individually,
Why? To prevent groupthink. This simple rule stops the loudest person in the room from dominating and makes sure everyone's ideas, even the quiet introverts, get captured. No talking, no critiquing, nothing. Just writing. And please, do not start putting things into categories yet. You'll introduce your own bias and kill the discovery process before it even starts.
Okay, now for step 2, the silent sort. This is where the magic really starts to unfold. You've got all the notes on a wall or a whiteboard. Now, the team gets up and, still in complete silence, starts moving them around. You're looking for ideas that just feel like they belong together. It's a really intuitive, almost right-brained activity. You'll see someone pick up a note, read it, and put it next to another one that feels similar. Then someone else might come along and add a third note to that cluster, or maybe they'll move one to a different group. It's like a collaborative dance, and it all happens without a single word being spoken. The silence is the key. It forces everyone to find connections based on the ideas themselves, not on who argued the loudest. So once the silent sorting starts to slow down, and you can see that the clusters are pretty stable, it's time for step 3. Now, you can finally talk. The team gets together, looks at each group of ideas, and collaboratively comes up with a short, descriptive title that really captures the essence of what that whole group is about. These labels are your affinities. They're the powerful, new strategic themes that have emerged directly from your team's own raw ideas. Coming up with a good title is a bit of an art form. It's got to be concise, but it also has to be packed with meaning.
And that brings us to the final, and I have to say, the most often forgotten step. This is the payoff. You've done the hard work, you've turned absolute chaos into beautiful clarity. Now you have to actually use it. An affinity diagram isn't just a cool artifact to hang on the wall. It's a launch pad for real action. I absolutely love this quote because it is so, so true. People do all the work and then just stop. The whole point of this exercise is to build a clear, prioritized plan. Each of those affinity titles you just created, that should be the starting point for a new project or a new strategic initiative. This step right here is what separates a fun little team building exercise from a tool that drives real, tangible results for the business. Theory is one thing, but let's see what this looks like in the real world. We're going to dive into a simple but really powerful case study about a Six Sigma team. So the situation is this. The team just got training on all these new process improvement ideas. They're fired up, but they're also worried that their company's culture is just going to kill any attempt to implement them. So what does the team leader do? They use an affinity diagram to capture and organize all of those worries. And this shows the process perfectly. Just look at the raw ideas. Our accounting systems can't handle data in a process-centric way. That sounds pretty technical. No way to get cost measures is a specific complaint. By themselves, they're just problems. But when the team groups them together, a powerful theme emerges: system and data limitations. Same for the second group. A note about rewards and another about call handle times might seem disconnected. But together, they point to a much deeper problem: misaligned incentives. You see, the diagram took the team's thinking from just individual complaints to systemic, strategic issues they could actually start to solve. So we've seen the problem, we've unpacked the tool, we've walked through the steps, and we've seen it in action. Now, let's bring it all back to you. How can you take this simple but powerful framework and use it to solve the messy challenges that you're facing right now in your own work? So if you take one thing away, let it be this. The affinity diagram isn't just a way to organize sticky notes. It is a transformation engine. It takes that chaotic storm of individual ideas, voices, and worries, and it methodically turns them into a clear, shared, and actionable strategic map that your entire team can actually understand and get behind. And that really leaves us with just one final question for you. Think about your work, your team, your current projects. Where is the chaos? Where are you feeling that analysis paralysis? What's that one big, messy, unstructured problem where having a clear map would change everything? Because that is your starting point. That's the challenge you can go out and clarify first.